This past weekend, and all day on cable news ever since, we watched a police officer in McKinney, Texas, wrestle with a 14-year-old teenager after what was reported to be a pool party. He throws her to the ground, pulls his gun out and points it at some other kids, screams at her, and then sits on the teenager in her bikini for a period of time. This is the latest installment of the hit cable television news story of the last year or so, called Cops Behaving Badly, Caught on Tape. This version was not the most deadly, although there have been versions of this story that end in death. It has caused a lot of hot air on radio and TV, some of it constructive, some of it just offensive. But has it caused a more serious discussion of police and communities of color? Has it sparked a more serious discussion about how teenagers and police interact or should interact? I hope so, but I kind of doubt it. Recently, I met with a young man from Chicago who made a real impression on me. He is from the Phoenix Military Academy, a smart teenager. He's going to go places. He said, "You know what, Congressman? I've taught myself strategies to de-escalate the situation whenever I come in contact with police." Did you hear that? A teenager feels he needs to teach himself ways to de-escalate tensions with adult police officers. We're apparently leaving it up to our teenagers to figure out ways to deal with the police, which is precisely backwards from how things ought to be. What the videotape from Texas and the comment from my young friend at Phoenix Military Academy in Chicago have in common is that there does not seem to be any communication between adults on the police side and young people in our community who the police are sworn to protect. Instead of a cooperative relationship between teenagers and adults who are there to protect them, there's an adversarial relationship. A couple of weeks ago, I looked around while I was on the Judiciary Committee hearing on policing strategies in the 21st century, and all I saw was people that were 50, 60, and 70 years old. There were no young people called to testify, to tell us what they face, how they feel, and what we should, as adults, should do to help them. Very few of us are former or current law enforcement. And while all of us are former teenagers, still for most of us it has been quite a while since we were a teenager. And our experience may not be all that typical of what young people and the police face today. I hope adults like me in places of influence and authority can be helpful in creating the conditions where avenues of communication are created. But a 3-hour hearing with political undertones and more than a little grandstanding is not enough. Almost every city in America is one bad incident, an overzealous policeman, or a videotape moment of stupidity or hatred away from a riot. Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray are names we know, but knowing their names is just not enough. We need a sustained effort from Congress and from every institution in our society to address the chasm between young people, and especially young people in communities of color, and the police hired to keep them safe. And let's remember, while the country was transfixed with the video of the cop, the teenagers, and the pool party in Texas, 2 of my constituents were shot and killed this past weekend in Chicago. They were among 5 dead in Chicago and among 27 people shot from Friday to Monday. At least 5 people were killed and 25 others were shot in and around Chicago the weekend before. 12 dead and 56 wounded over the long Memorial Day weekend. Knowing the names of Sandy Hook, Newtown, and Columbine are not enough when Baltimore, Chicago, and other cities are also using young people, mostly young people, at this rate. It goes beyond police strategies and it goes beyond practices and the easy availability of guns, but that's part of it. When legislators spend more time making guns easier to carry and stand-your-ground laws make murder raps easier to beat, our priorities are skewed. It goes beyond racial profiling, but that's part of it. When 84% of sobriety checkpoints in Chicago are set up in Black and Latino neighborhoods so that cops can stop anyone who drives by, that sends a message that's destructive. It goes beyond economic opportunity, but that's also part of it. But honestly, we do not spend much time in this Congress thinking about how we help 10 and 12-year-olds know that a bright future is possible for them. We do not do much for children to help them achieve that future, but instead we cut things like Head Start and spend more and more money on jails. Listen, In America, we must change the conversation so that we as a nation are working together to help make sure the next generation lives to adulthood first. We need to stop talking so much about what protects us from those kids and start talking more about what we as adults are going to do to protect those kids from the world we've created for them.